Now I'm going to provide a bit of a more in-depth explanation as to how the middle mouse click and drag behavior behaves, what the logic behind it is. So let's go ahead and open our constraint drop-down menu here. You see that it starts with single nucleotide, then single base pair, then single strand, then helix, then subdomain, stacked helix, RNA cycle, RNA molecule, RNA complex, single color, and entire scene. Essentially, these constraints become more and more broad the further down the list you go, and this is the exact same order in which XRNA attempts to classify all of the nucleotides that you highlighted as. So first it'll check, is the nucleotide that you highlighted over, is it a single nucleotide? And if it is, such as in this example, it changes the constraint to be single nucleotide, and it populates the menu accordingly. If instead it is not a single, that means non-base paired nucleotide, and you select only one nucleotide, then it determines that it is a single base pair. Of course, you can also select both a single nucleotide, or sorry, a base paired nucleotide and the nucleotide which it is base paired to. So that is also a valid selection of single base pair. If you want to select a run of nucleotides, you don't have to select all of them, so long as you select more than one and they are continuous, so they share nucleotide indices that are one off from one another, then it determines that it is a single-stranded region you're trying to edit, and that is, of course, correct. So if you want to do a helix, you don't have to select the entire helix. You can select a subsection of that helix, or you could even select, I'm just going to get rid of that constraint temporarily, you could also select 1/2 of that helix to determine that it is a helix, and that will work just fine. Next, in order to do subdomain, all you need to do is select, of course, you need to do more than just the bounding nucleotides, because if you select only the bounding nucleotides, it's going to come up with single base pair, and that will be technically correct. So if you instead take nucleotides which are a bit more than the bounding nucleotides, so let's say these here, and all of these are within the subdomain, and we are also capturing the bounding largest nucleotide, and smallest nucleotide index nucleotide, then it determines that it is subdomain, so that has succeeded. If we want to capture a stacked helix, the typical way to do this is to not try to capture both ends of it, but instead capture just 1/2 of it. So just like that, we can capture an RNA stacked helix. So that's good. The next one is RNA cycle. This one is a bit difficult to do, and a lot of the time you will get it wrong, or it will come up with a subdomain. So you might want to just right click instead, but if you capture a continuous region, meaning that if you start at any given nucleotide among those that are mouse clicked over, you must be able to reach every other nucleotide by either using a base pair or a adjacent nucleotide index pair. So I think you get the idea. If we go ahead and click on that, it has determined that this is the RNA cycle you're attempting to edit, so that succeeded. Now you're getting to the point where you don't really want a whole lot of specificity, but you want to avoid the selection that you end up selecting being captured by any of the interaction constraints. So you can sort of just take any couple of arbitrary nucleotides, mouse over them, and because every other constraint fails to match what you've highlighted, you will instead drop to the RNA molecule. If you wanted to do the RNA complex, you'd have to have an example file that has more than one molecule, because otherwise you're never going to fail the RNA molecule constraint, but I think you get the idea. Single color, again, you would have to fail not only the single RNA molecule and single complex constraint, but then you would have to select nucleotides that are all the same color. And if that one also fails, then the entire scene will be the only thing that is returned. So you would have to have an example file with multiple RNA complexes that all fail because you've selected more than one, and they are not all the same color, and then it would default to the entire scene constraint. So this has been an exploration of how the middle mouse click and drag behavior works within XRNA.js.